welcome to this episode of the Drink Less, Live Better podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Williamson, and I'm really glad you're here. What's the best that could happen? It's a question we don't ask nearly enough, because most of the time, when we're standing on the edge of something new, something uncomfortable, or something uncertain, we ask a different one. We say, what's the worst that could possibly happen? We say it jokingly, we say it ironically, we say it to bond with other people over our shared anxiety. And sometimes we say it and we really mean it. What's the worst that could happen if I go to that party and don't drink? What's the worst that could happen if I say no? What's the worst that could happen if I try something new? What's the worst that could happen if I change? And often we're thinking about the judgment other people might have for us. Our brains are brilliant threat detectors. They are ancient, loyal bodyguards scanning for danger. Their job is not to make us joyful or fulfilled. Their job is to keep us alive. So our brains rehearse disaster. They draft up worst-case scenarios like they're writing a scene for a true crime documentary. And sometimes that's useful. If you're actually about to step into real danger, thinking about worst-case outcomes helps you to prepare. But most of the time in modern life, the danger is emotional discomfort, awkwardness, disappointment, vulnerability. And yet we treat those things as if they're life-threatening. So I'd like to offer you a different question today. And guess what? That is, what's the best that could happen? Absolutely not in a positive vibes only way, but in a possibility expanding kind of way. What if, before you took action, you allowed yourself to imagine a good outcome? What if, instead of mentally rehearsing humiliation, you rehearsed success? Okay, let's take something simple. You decide to go to a social event and not drink. Your brain says, and when I'm saying your brain says, I also mean my brain says. You'll feel awkward. People will notice. People will question you. You'll be bored. You'll leave early. You will regret going in the first place. And that's the worst case reel, playing on loop. But if we turned it around and asked what's the best that could happen, attending an event and not having a drink, you might end up feeling really proud of yourself. You might end up having one really deep and meaningful conversation with someone that you didn't know you were going to. You might wake up the next morning feeling clear-headed and calm. You might realise that actually you don't need alcohol to connect with people. That possibility often doesn't even get airtime. And positive expectations really matter. They actually change how we show up. If you walk into a situation expecting it to be terrible, guess what? Your body feels tight and tense. Your tone might shift. You scan for proof that you were right. Yes, this is awful. You become a detective hunting for the evidence of doom. And yet, if you walk in expecting something good to happen, your posture becomes more relaxed. Maybe you're more open, you're more curious, and you notice opportunities around you instead of immediate threats. Your expectation will shape your perception. Positive expectations also increase the likelihood of positive outcomes, and not because of magic, but because of your behaviour. If you expect rejection, maybe you're going to hold back. If you expect connection, maybe you're going to engage a bit more. If you expect failure, are you going to be hesitant? And yet, if you expect growth, you give it a go. Your actions follow your expectations, and your results often follow your actions. So asking what's the best that could happen builds your resilience. When you give yourself permission to imagine good outcomes, you're training your brain to tolerate uncertainty without immediately defaulting to fear. You're widening the range of what feels possible and therefore probable for you. If we're constantly asking, what's the worst that could happen, we subtly reinforce the idea that we can't handle discomfort. But you can. You've handled awkward conversations, you've handled disappointment, you've handled hard days and difficult times. You are not fragile. When you imagine the best that could happen, you're not denying that challenges exist. You're reminding yourself that good things exist too. There's also a piece about motivation here. Fear-based thinking can get us moving in the short term. It can push us to avoid pain. But possibility-based thinking surely pulls us forward more naturally. It creates energy. And it's the difference between, I have to stop drinking because this might get even worse, or I get to stop drinking because this might be better. One is driven by avoidance, the other is driven by vision. If your brain insists on storytelling, let's just write both versions each time, and you might discover the better version feels compelling enough to take the first step. Before you do something that feels uncomfortable this week, just give it a pause for a moment and notice the worst case story playing in your mind. And then ask yourself, hang on a second, what is the best that could happen? Be specific and let your answer surprise you. Because sometimes the best that could happen is not dramatic. Maybe it's just a small win. And these small win moments will help build a really good life. The more often you practice expecting good outcomes, the more available they become to you. What is the best that could happen? You never know, you might just give yourself permission to step into something even better. You can find me on Instagram at drinklesslivebetter and online at drinklesslivebetter.com, where you'll find lots of supportive resources. Check out today's podcast show notes for a link to a hidden episode that will help with your 5 p.m. cravings and details about my one-to-one life coaching and sober coaching programs. And P.S. I believe in you.